Hi, I'm Claire from Purls and Tassels and welcome to the video tutorial for the Dart and Around crossbody bag.
So first up, we're going to check that we have everything that we need. So from our outer fabric, we need to have a front piece and a back piece. From our lining, we also need a front piece and a back piece. Now, whichever you choose, doesn't matter which fabric from. I didn't have enough of this as it was a dodgy cut fat quarter. So we have our two pocket pieces, our back pocket pieces. And then we have a 6-inch zip, a 10-inch zip, two D-rings, a buckle, swivel clasp. I love these things, they're so cool. Anyway, nifty. As well as our 2.5-inch pieces of webbing and our remaining part that will become our handle. Now in this one I am using quilting cotton, so I have put some pellin on that and then quilted my two outer pieces. Oh, some lovely threads stuck in there, ignore those. Anyway, so then we are ready to mark on our zipper points. So taking our front lining piece, we're going to flip it to the wrong side and using our pattern piece, you can see I've cut along the marking for zipper line here. I'm just going to fold it back out of the way for the minute. Align it like so and draw my line on here. So now we're going to install the zipper on our front piece. So we're going to take our outer front piece and lay it with its right side up, and then our lining front piece and pop it down right sides together. Now, align that nicely, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch the full way around this line, creating a rectangle. Just like so. Then we're going to take a pair of scissors and we're going to chop along this line. So, fold it in, easy to get started. Pop your scissors in. Now, once you get to the end of the line, you're going to cut into each corner, being very careful not to snip your stitching. Like so. I think that shows well. Lovely. Same on the other end. Snip, snip, snip. And into each corner. Okay, so now we're going to take our lining piece and pass it through that hole we just cut so that it pulls nicely through. Obviously, I need to jiggle that a little and iron it so that it will sit nicely, creating a little rectangle hole. So now you can see that that's sitting nice and flat and we have our lovely little rectangle. Now, it's important at this point that you go along and finish these edges on your zipper. I like to do it with a lighter, but depending on what type of zippering you're using, that may or may not work for you. But however you wish to do it, finish those edges on there. Now, once that's done, we're going to lay our zipper in behind this little hole that we've made. How cool is that? Lovely. And we're going to center it in there, and then we're going to sew around 3 sides because we obviously need to put our zipper pull on through here. So we won't finish that 4th side, but we will top stitch around 3 sides. Now, if you're using a chunkier zipper pull or you've used quite a scant 1/4 inch, it might be an idea to leave it down or to start down a little bit from that end, just to give yourself a bit more wiggle room with getting that zipper pull in. As I was doing that, I realized some of you may not have seen the lighter trick before. If you haven't, you just run the flame lightly across the end of that if it is a synthetic zipper, and hey presto, it seals it nicely and there's no more fraying. Just like that. Now, pinning this in place is going to be what makes or breaks how neat and tidy this looks. So you go along and spend a bit of time, jiggle your pins, get it looking just right, and then you'll have a beautifully neat zip without having to do any folding or nastiness, and without even having to put a zipper foot on, probably. Woohoo! Okay, so with one of my back pocket pieces, I have marked the line on it for, hello, there's my roosters, marked the line on it, and I've also marked a line 1 inch down from the top edge of my back quarter piece, as well as a line marking the center. I've also ironed a nice little crease there so I can see, and pop that on like that, and we're going to pin it in place and then sew 1/4 inch all the way around that line. So now we've sewn around there, we're going to cut along this line and into each of the corners of our box like we did with our front piece. So it's easiest to fold it there, give it a little snip. Now we have a hole to insert our scissors into to the end of that line. And my darling children used my sewing scissors to open a chook food bag the other day, so they're a little bit blunt. However, I will sharpen them soon, so don't mind that. I'm going to give them a little bit of extra help, and just be careful as you're coming in that you make sure you don't snip those stitches there, because that will cause a lot of drama for you that I'll need to tidy up. So there's that said rooster again. Snipping into each corner. Lovely. Now we're going to turn this through. So take our piece, flip it on through to the back. Pull it on through. I'm going to wiggle it. Oh, excuse my voice, we've all been sick. Anyway, so we're going to wiggle it round like this, getting all of that sitting nicely. I do apologise for my fingernails. I've been in the veggie garden this morning and I only just realised that now. Whoops. Anyway, I'll meet you back when I finish this. I've given it a good press from this side and from that side. That's what it looks like. Now we'll go ahead and install our zipper. Here's our zipper piece. That rooster's chatty. Sorry. So we're going to centre it so that it fits nicely along there and get caught in that seam. And over on this side, like that. And we're going to go around and pin, and I'll meet you back. So now I've sewn around those three sides, and I've got the opening here. I don't know how to show you that better. That opening there. I'm going to split my zipper here and insert my zipper tab on there. Now, I always get fumbly fingers when I try and do that on camera, so I will meet you back when I have done that. You wouldn't believe it, off camera, first go. I promise if I had done it on here, it would have taken a long time. So I've got it on now, and I just push it through that loop and keep pushing it from my tab across so that it is now over in here. And then we can go back and top stitch this short end and close it up so that our zipper is beautifully secured. With our other pocket piece now, we're going to place it right sides together and attach it to just the other pocket piece. It's very important that we don't sew it to our main quilted back piece. Just the corners, I find, is enough pinning. We can use your clips if you'd prefer. Just go along and pin these. Now, as we sew it, it is very important that we remember to leave a roughly 3-inch gap in the bottom here, because that's what we'll turn the whole bag through when we get to that point at the end. So that means it's a very good idea to go backwards and forwards at the beginning and end of this. We'll start over here and go around, backwards and forwards, and leave that nice turning through gap there. As I sew this, you'll see that I've pulled the main part of the bag away, and we are just sewing the pocket bag, and we'll be doing that the whole way around, making sure we don't catch the bag anywhere. See, we've left our nice big gap there for turning through. So now we have both of our zippers finished. We're going to take our front piece and we're going to put our darts. Now, to sew a dart, well, for a start, the darts are these parts here. We are going to work them separately between the lining and the front. So you'll need to pull this apart, bring it right sides together, like so, pin that, and sew along here with a 1/4-inch seam. You'll do the same at every point along here, folding them nicely. You'll notice that there is a little bit of overlap there, but that will get sort of with the seam allowance, it will meet nicely here. So, oh, that's a wild pin. So you'll go around and do that with all 4 of your corners, and then we'll sew them. So this is what it'll look like now that you have your darts pinned. You can see that we're doing them separately, and they're all just met and brought in, and it gives that front the lovely shape without having to have a gusset that goes around. So now we're going to take our 2 smaller pieces of webbing and our 2 Ds, and we're going to attach them to the quilted back panel, the one with the pocket on there. So first up, we're going to take our piece of webbing, feed it through our D, and fold it in half so that they align like that. Then we're going to get our back piece, center it
along that edge there and pin it in place. Now, a lot of these next steps are just tacking things in place to make the final assembly piece, final assembly seam a lot neater and easier with a lot less risk of having to unpick because things are already tacked where they're meant to be. So we'll repeat that on the other side, and then using a 1/4 inch seam, we're going to tack that on both sides. So to start this next step, it was hard to write. I'm hoping it makes more sense when you see the video. We're going to take our front piece with the darts that we sewed in before and make it so that it's sitting like this as one piece, everything tucked in nicely. Now these darts, at the moment, they look like a bit of a V. We're going to stretch them to be as flat as they can be across the corresponding back lining piece. Now, we'll be aligning the lining pieces right side together. So right lining, bring that together. And we're going to carefully stretch to make it so that these go across like that. And that gap there is less than 1/4 inch so that it will get caught in our 1/4 inch seam. Now you won't be able to get it perfectly straight, and that is a-okay. It will not cause any issue in the in your finished product. There'll be no bad outcome. All that happens is you need to get it so that it's less than 1/4 inch. So I find it easy to pin one edge like so, pin the other edge up here like so. Squeeze this out gently, trying not to overstretch it because it is a bias cut, and bring it up to sit like that and pop a pin in there. So you can see that it is not sitting perfectly, but that's okay because that is less than 1/4 inch there. So I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch tacking seam along there. So this is it finished with that little bit there. So now that I have tacked my darts on either side here, I'm going to go around and pin the middle and the middle, and then ease this into here in a similar way. Now it's going to be very hard to video this, so I will pause it and I will show you what it looks like when it's finished. Here we go, there's our darts that we tacked in before. We tacked either end first, and then I've gone around and I've eased this into there. As you can see, similar to our more squared off straight darts, there's that little bit of a wedge there where it doesn't quite meet, and that's okay because this is still within 1/4 inch. So now what we're going to do is we're going to zoom around here, same with this one, it doesn't quite meet, that's okay, the 1/4 inch seam will catch it. We're going to zoom around there with a 1/4 inch seam to tack it all in place. Now technically this step is optional because you're going to put an outer side on here. You could do it all in one. It won't be easy. The easiest way to get a great finish is to do this 1/4 inch step and zoom around and just get everything nice and tidy, securely in place, so that for your final seam, you're not worrying about where everything's lining up and it's just a whole lot neater. Let's sew. Now through all the tricky bits. So we're going to take our front part that has the lining on the back and sandwich it right sides together with our front piece that has the D's on it. We're going to pin it like a big old sandwich, just like so. Beautifully sandwiched together, all pinned in. Now we're going to go around and do 3/8 of an inch seam, so you won't see that 1/4 inch anymore. It's just for tacking, and then we'll be ready to turn it through. All the tricky bits done. How exciting! So before we turn this through, we're just going to snip our corners so that everything sits a little bit nicer, and we're going to clip our curves. So if you've never done that before, you've got some options. You can use pinking shears. That was where I ran out of bobbin. Or you can just go in and make little cuts around the curve, making sure not to snip the stitching, just to give it that little bit more flexibility so that it sits nicely. So then we're going to take this opening that we have here, and if you made a mischief like me and didn't already open your zipper, you have to open that now. And we're going to turn your bag through this hole. I find it helpful to reach in and grab a D-ring so you've got something to pull on a bit and have your midwife moment and birth your beautiful new bag. And we're going to do all our correct breathing exercises and holding our mouth right so that we don't tear. Lovely. Pull that out. Ta-da! There's our bag. We'll zhuzh that around a bit and get it looking all tickety-boo. Check that that seam's caught everything it's meant to. That's all sitting nicely. Lovely. Then our last job is to pull this inside pocket out, and you can either hand stitch it closed with a lovely lattice stitch, or you can be a bit lazy like I'm going to be, and I'm going to tuck under this raw edges here as if it was a seam allowance, iron, and then stitch across there with a scant seam. Now for our very last trick, we are going to assemble our webbing and our sliders. At this point, if you're wanting to add a decorative strip, go ahead and sew that on. I'm not going to go too much into that, but if that's something that you're interested in doing, feel free to do that now. So one swivel, thread it through, easy peasy, sew it in place. Now you have two options depending on what type of webbing you're using. I'm using cotton, so I'm going to need to zigzag this down. However, if you are using a webbing that you can burn it with a cigarette lighter or something like that to stop it fraying, that might make your life easy. Anyway, take it, turn it through, sew it down. With that done, we take our other end and our lovely slider. Now mine isn't attached there, but yours might be. Anyway, I'm going to go over that middle bar and through, slide it along. Then you're going to pass it through the swivel, flip it over, and now we're going to go through the underside of this. So sometimes it's easier if you push it up so it's holding, got a bit of room there. We're going to go through and back through there. A bit of gentle encouragement. Right. Like that. And we're going to finish this edge. So either pop it down and zigzag it there, or however you want to do that. So then you've got your lovely adjustable slider that will zoom along. Whoops, I need to finish that first so it's got that bit of a ridge. And we'll clip that onto our bag once I've turned this under and sewn it. So that is all done. I've finished that there. Now our slider zooms along, and hey presto, we get to go clickety clack, and our bag is done. Woohoo!